keeping life in a good-natured perspective is a common practice of pilots.
Come on. Come on.
Rancher Albert Kolk will tell you that, especially after the flying adventure he, his grandson Jordan, and two friends endured on a night flight back from Seattle, crossing the rugged Manashee Mountains in British Columbia.
It was a beautiful night. We were, as we climbed to 9,500 feet, we could see a starlit sky, and we could see the peaks below us, the snowy peaks, and down lower there was some dark green, of course, of the trees and some light grays. You could distinguish that. You could distinguish the odd river and some water below, but that's about all. There was no moon, but very bright, clear night. So everything was going well until something went wrong.
And then he said shoot, and I remembered, and all of a sudden, just like everything kind of put it in perspective a bit. It was a lot nicer. You realize that you do have some security, some safety in that.
I hollered, shoot, seatbelts, and I pulled back the power, turned off the ignition and whatever needed to be done. Then I pulled the chute. There was a little explosion, which was good to hear. It's kind of loud, but it's good to hear that explosion. But what was even better to hear, when that parachute started to deploy. And when it first starts to deploy, there's that ring above that holds it for a ways, and then it starts to deploy more and more. And that's just such a gorgeous feeling. It is holding, and we're going down on the chute, the whole airplane. And that was just such a beautiful feeling, a feeling of comfort and joy, you might say.
Albert's airplane eventually floated safely to the ground, threading the needle on his way down through a small opening between some tall trees and coming to rest on a steep, sloped rock pile.
We got a great landing. The parachute hooked a tree, and it brought us around really slowly and set us down on, it was a fairly steep incline, but set us down in a really nice place. There was no trees. There was trees on both sides of us, but not where we landed. It was almost the perfect landing spot.
And you all walked away?
Yeah. Everybody got out of the plane and walked away without a bruise, without a scratch, without anything.
What is your life worth? What is the life of your loved ones worth? The ones you carry, whether it's your grandson or granddaughter or child or girlfriend or wife? What's their life worth? Can you count that in dollars and cents? No way. Pull the chute, you walk away.
Why is the name Quicksilver synonymous with ultralight aviation?
I think it's because back in the when we went from the hang gliding days to the power days, that Lyle Byram got involved in the company, and he came from the general aviation world. He was one of Cessna's big distributors out in Midland, Texas, and so he took the quality that Cessna was using at the time and applied that to the same quality programs in this type of aviation. You know, doing the quality assurance and quality control programs. And I think the buying public, they recognized that right off the bat, that the company was being staffed by an administration and by a group of engineers that were interested in putting together a quality product at a reasonable price and then offering it to the masses. And he followed up with that by developing a dealer network and using the same format that Cessna used in their Cessna flight centers. Using that same format, he developed the Quicksilver dealer program. And so now he had a bunch of people spreading the same philosophy. They spent quite a bit of money on advertising, you know, and did it right, getting the name out. Not only did they get the name out and get the product recognition out, they followed up with quality service, replacement parts, quality flight training. areas throughout the United States, and they did an awful lot of advertising. You know, he threw the dice, made the gamble, did the advertising, went to all of the shows, he got involved in Hollywood. So the big push was name recognition, and I think he did real well at that. And you know, the proof is in the pudding, because here we are today, some 30 years later, and we have people that walk up to Todd and I and say, yeah, I bought one of these back in late 80s, and now that I'm growing up and I sold my company, I'm ready to buy another one. You know? So it really lends itself well to the program that was originally laid out to what we have today. And I think that's why the name is so synonymous with what's going on today in this movement. Although it's a little for us, you know, being involved in the industry for a long time, what's happening today is we're kind of at a turning point one way or another. But Quicksilver has decided to dedicate itself to staying to the same thing that what their roots were in the very beginning, which is high quality, bolt together type aircraft that's easy to maintain, easy to repair, and intrinsically safe because of its low kinetic energy flight characteristics.
The airplanes, when they first came out, they were a leader in a lot of aspects. Like they were the first, for example, to come out with a manual that actually showed you step by step how to build the airplane over a week or 40 hours or whatever. And they've taken that same theme along to the rest. I mean, it's not just training; it's just the manuals. It's the whole thing with their aircraft.
Well, in the beginning, when the company decided that it was going to become a professional company, one of the elements of the company were that it was going to be a builder-friendly type of product. And so just like you have your swing sets and your barbecue pits come with all of the illustrated assembly instructions on how to put it together, that's what they took off with. So a lot of time and energy was spent in technical illustrators. The engineering staff for the company, both of the head guys had one of them had graduated from the Pasadena Art Center. So there was a big thrust into having well illustrated assembly manuals, step-by-step assembly manuals that were easy to follow and easy to understand. And that helped out a lot because it took away the can I do this? Am I capable of putting this airplane together? And along with the very detailed assembly manual, they had very detailed flight manuals on how to own the aircraft and how to maintain the aircraft and what you needed to do every 10 hours and every 20 hours and every 50 hours and every 100 hours and once a year, every 2 years, all the way up to the product's lifespan. And so along with the hardware that was developed with the product, it was followed up by the documentation, you know, the reams of documentation that the customers got when they purchased the aircraft. Not only did they purchase the aircraft, but they purchased the product support that was followed up by the factory. And that was, back in the day, you know, this was in the late 70s, early 80s, that was just unprecedented in this type of aviation because for the longest time we were thought to just be a passing fad that just never passed.
The other thing that they introduced was mass production. We had never seen the type of scale that they introduced when they came up with these aircraft.
Right. Lyle and his crew, he put together a very detailed crew, and they applied more so of how the Japanese were doing. They were assembling the motorcycles, where they implemented a lot of computer-controlled equipment. All of the punch presses and the mills and the computer-operated lathes and the computer-cut fabric tables. The fabric, the product is a stabilized Dacron fabric, and they utilized what was going on in the sailboat world. They're having all the computer-cut stuff and all the markings in the metal part of it. A lot of it was brought over from the motorcycle manufacturing technology, and a lot of it was developed by Quicksilver. They developed the tools that were used to drill the tubing and to form the tubing. And a lot of that technology is used by other manufacturers. A lot of the hang gliders that are being produced today are still using that